Hello everyone, Debbie2100 here, and I got another MacBook Air video, as obviously you guys can see. This is the long-awaited 1 week later follow-up video that I've been wanting to do. Now, I will also be doing a 1 month one down the road, once we obviously hit that 1 month marker. Hopefully by that point too, we'll also have done the review for the Mac Mini. Once we get that guy in, that's going to be a big thing right there that I'm really looking forward to doing, as well as just kind of going over this guy for that 1 month review, because hopefully by that point too, with the 1 month review, maybe like Cyberpunk will have dropped by that point. And I'm also the big reason why I'm really hopeful for that one is because then I will be able to really look at more the battery life on this guy in comparison to how it's been with the M1, and especially at that point, it's a month later. Has it had any drops in the battery life, health, or anything like that? How is the charge time? Is it still charging just as normal as it would be when I first started off with this machine? All those things. So I am curious to see how that's going to transpire 1 whole month later. Now with the M1, so far, knock on wood, it's still holding up to 100% battery charge life. No issues in anything like that. It hasn't dropped in condition. Nothing like that. And I gotta say, that's pretty impressive, because I've seen a lot of people even say with even like the M1 or even this M2, within like 3 months, they were down to like 85% battery condition in life. And it's like, what were you doing with your, your charge, in your MacBook, that you weren't able to keep the battery life going that long? I mean, hell, the M1 is this old of a machine. We're in 2025, and a month later, it's still at 100%, and going into almost the second month, it's still at 100%. I'm just kind of curious as to what you were doing. Maybe, just maybe, this might boast about why I do these kind of real-world tests versus doing like Cinebench and Geekbench. I think maybe those are just doing too much to your machine, that it's costing you in the long run. Because I'm, knock on wood, have not had those issues whatsoever. You know what I mean? So I mean, I'm really kind of just baffled that like 3 months in, you've lost that much of your your condition or the health of your MacBook. And maybe they're just doing that as a boast, because a lot of times that's when they'll be like, oh, and by the way, this video is sponsored by Clean My Mac, And I'm not just saying Clean My Mac or anything like that, but I feel like it's because they're sponsored by them that they're utilizing that as a way to kind of hook that in there. Just because it's like, the biggest point of like the Clean My Mac is really that it helps maintain the storage, and keeping up on getting rid of kind of like how Windows makes a lot of shadow copies of everything. A lot of times, because your machine is doing a lot of stuff usually paired with the iCloud, it kind of makes like a similar type of thing, like a kind of a shadow copy type deal, that sometimes just ends up being on your machine and just needs to be wiped away. But you don't realize it there until you use something like Clean My Mac, or you go into the terminal and you do it yourself, which then creates a little bit of a headache, because you might be worried whether or not you're doing the right thing, if you're going in with terminal, all that other stuff. So I can see why some people might get a little fearful about something like that. But honestly though, if you're that fearful, just use Clean My Mac. There you go. You know what I mean? Which, by the way, this video isn't sponsored. It's not sponsored by Clean My Mac or anything like that. I just wanted to throw that out there, because just as something I've kind of noticed with some of these videos, it just is kind of weird. And then yeah, you guys can see I got the MacBook's beautiful side view there, right there, going on in the view there. So it's one of those things I gotta say that I was a little kind of curious, how would I feel about the new design? This not having the kind of beveled wedge look to it and stuff like that, and it just being more of a straight shot, kind of blasted, feel to it. And I gotta say, I'm actually digging this one way more than I thought I would. At first, because I was so used to the M1, it took me a good solid 3-4 days to get used to the body. Right? Whereas the M1, it was instant, but it was the first Mac that I'd ever really owned, so that was my standard, right? That was all right, this is your standard, this is what you're going to get used to. And then you go over to this, and it's literally just a whole flip-flop, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, this is a little bit different. Especially with the whole body on the bottom of here being all completely rounded. It does have these edges that can, for some people, get into the wrist. I actually don't find that to be as much of an issue as a lot of people actually talk about. Even with the whole wedge design and stuff like that, I never had the issues of it cutting into my arm or anything like that. This one doesn't do it either. I only really notice it more when I'm on the trackpad, because it does have a little bit sharper edges. So right where my wrist kind of falls, it kind of cradles that. Thankfully, I have a small wrist. I'm kind of dainty of a guy, because legitimately, if my shit just falls right in there, no issues. I don't have a problem with having my my wrist be jabbed by it too much. But if I do sharply turn my wrist when I'm using the trackpad, I can accidentally bump into those little corners, and it's like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, I do notice that. So that's why I do kind of hover my hands even when I'm typing and stuff like that. But it also doesn't feel that bad when I'm doing this, as typing and stuff like that, or using the trackpad. And kind of go back to the battery life too, by the way. I meant to say this earlier too, is I just don't know if the M2, by the way, is just that much more of a power hog. I mean, I've heard that the M3 and the M4 are definitely power hogs, but I guess the M2 really does start that trend, I guess, because comparatively to the M1, which the MacBook I felt like lasted a little longer on the battery, even though it has technically the smaller battery than this guy and all the other ones, it's a little weird, but the M2 does seem to somewhat use a little bit more power by like around the 30-minute mark. I'll look at both the M1 and M2. They're at 100% charge. Unplug them 30 minutes later to see where they're at. The M1 will always be just about like a percentage or two higher than the M2, but then it usually within like a few seconds, like that M1 will catch up to what it says on the M2. But then that M2 drops like another fucking like gig, or not gig, but another percentage or two. And it's like, wait, what's going on here? So I'm not exactly sure what's eating up the battery life there. And now I will say, knock on wood, we have not had to tap into swappable memory, which I wonder if maybe that also sometimes taxes the M1's battery a little bit more. Because when it's not utilizing it, it's just sitting, let's say, at the like idle on the desktop where I'm just watching Safari, just using the one app, I don't notice it like at all. But then you introduce another app to it whatsoever, and all of a sudden that battery drain is comparable to the M2 just by itself, right? Just on its own. Now the M2 itself, I feel like doesn't have that issue with having that extra power push with swappable memory, because I do have a 16 gig model. So I don't ever have the swap go on, and legitimately, knock on wood, that's even with doing like, iMovie, having Safari in the background, maybe I got, messages, maybe I got notes open. Like right now we have notes, messages, and I got Safari open because I got a buddy stream of them trying to lurk in the background and kind of vibe out with and stuff like that in between doing all this stuff. Which, by the way, we will be live today. So if you guys want to catch us live, we will be live on Kick or Rumble. Actually, we'll be on both. I mean, like if you want to go to either one, depending on which site you like more. Debbie2100 on both of those. But I will be live, and we'll be talking about some of the craziest shit going on right now with Twitch, right? So, because especially for some of you that have maybe even been a part of this YouTube channel for a long time, I used to be predominantly on Twitch. Yeah, I may have switched here and there a few times, but I've always ended up having to go back to Twitch. Well, this time we haven't been, and we've been doing a boycott of Twitch, and I don't know if a lot of you know of that, and I know it's weird to throw that in the middle of this video, but I mean, what better time now to really talk about it than right now, because it's like, we're boasting about going live on Rumble and Kick here after doing this video. Once it's edited and uploaded today, we'll be live at the shop, kind of just going about all this stuff. Amongst other stuff this week, we have a ton of other stuff we're going to be going over this week, so don't worry, we got a ton of content planned. But the big one, though, is that Twitch has had a lot of crazy things going on right now, and all of it's tied to Hassan and his little circle of crazy, leftists that are like going like, hey, let's go ahead and promote groups like Hamas and all these other things like that. You're like, you're promoting terrorist organizations, and yet you guys aren't being banned or any of this other stuff like that. Like, what's going on here, right? And then finally, the ADL calls out Hassan for what he ended up doing with the whole, attack that happened to those two Israeli couple, which was just horribly sad what happened to them. But what he did during his live stream was pretty much glaze and support the dude who did it. And it's like, Twitch, what are you doing, dude? So when people ask me, Debbie, why aren't you streaming on Twitch anymore? Debbie, why are you boycotting, Twitch? Because they're doing shit like that, and a 24-hour ban, that's all he gets for reading the dude's manifesto and glazing the dude on the fucking stream? Come on, dude. It's obvious that he's good friends with Dan Clancy, and Clancy's not letting that go down at all. Like, he is like, yo, no, that's my buddy. I can't let him go down. Like, come on, man. Like, you're gonna literally let him get away with something that crazy and just, I mean, come on, man. It's just, it breaks my heart to see how Twitch has gotten to this really weird cesspool that it's gotten to. And like, there's so many of my good friends that are on there still that are just like, I don't want to get into politics. I don't do politics. I don't do any of that other stuff like that. And they're like, and they just want to play games. They just want to enjoy their their streams with all their friends and their viewers and stuff like that, right? But a lot of them feel like, I think that it's like, oh man, that politics stuff is creeping into all that. Because then you got people that are just coming in your stream, well, what side do you stand on? What side are you supporting? It's like, dude, get that shit out of my stream. I don't want to talk about that, right? But like I've been trying, because they were like, talking like, hey, Jeffy, you went to all of a sudden doing a little politics, a little stuff like that here, which we will get back into the M2 here. I just want to cover over this, like, why we're doing the boycott and why it's pertinent to all this stuff, because like my friends who have stayed into the gaming scene, whereas I still do games, but I have incorporated a lot of doing like just like reacting content, and some of it has been about politics and about drama, in a sense of like what's going on with like Twitch and in the world and stuff. So I have started to cover some stuff like that, and I just felt it was a natural progression to kind of how my rants kind of go as it is. So I felt that it would just be a natural way to go, but we still do video game content. And again, by the way, guys, we gaming on the M2. Just saying, for those that are wondering, like, oh man, there's no way you could be gaming on a MacBook. Like, dude, literally, I slap this bad boy on, okay, my on SSD, and I plug in this whip here, which controls my my Razer Naga, and then legitimately, I can just go ahead and play some Resident Evil 3. I could do, if I wanted to buy Power World, I could play some Power World on here, which is awesome. They have Power World on this game, or on this guy here, and it's totally, able to be played. Looks great, handles well. RoboCop, any of those types of things like that. All I gotta do is just throw it on here and then play it like that, so that way I can keep this bad boy free of all the space, which has still got 160 gigs free of all the space. And it's still got, like, I think, between 300 and 200 something gigs, because I put quite a bit of, videos, pictures, downloads, everything like that for doing the content, whether it be thumbnails, whether it be games that we're doing for the doing for streams, all kinds of stuff. We have all kinds of things on that little SSD, so we can keep the MacBook freed up. But going back to that little rant that was going on, is that like I said, it's when people are asking me why we've been leaving Twitch, it's like, dude, you see what's going on. It's insane to see how it's degraded into this huge cesspool. And there's, like I said, so many good content creators that are just gamers that just want to just enjoy gaming and have fun doing that, but they feel like, man, like, unless I'm starting to bring in politics into my stuff, that I may be ostracized by the greater community of Twitch, because they're like, oh, but you gotta take a stand, and you either gotta be on this side or this side, and if you're on that other side, you gotta get the fuck off the platform, which is, I mean, hey, well, I ain't on there, because I ain't gonna be supporting no fucking terrorists. I'm not gonna sit there and be like, yeah, Hassan, you're a good guy, or, Mike from PA, or fucking Denims and all Frogan and all these other people who are actively supporting actual terrorist organizations, or calling CPS on a dude over internet drama. Dude, if you call CPS on somebody over internet drama because you got your feelings hurt, you yourself are the biggest bitch in the world, and I don't know what else to tell you. Like, legitimately, grow a fucking pair, dude. Like, a lot of these people have no fucking spine. They are all spineless. But that's why I've been boycotting the Twitch and everything like that, and that's why we've been talking about that stuff, like, actively on Rumble and Kick, and being like, guys, this is why we're streaming on these platforms versus this. Now, the reason why I don't go live here on, like, YouTube, where you'll see this video also on, is just that, honestly, I hate how the UI and everything is operated on YouTube. Google, please just spend the money and make streaming more viable. You had a portion of your timeline and your lifeline, or your life, I should say, that you guys were like, hey, we're going to be a little more serious about that. Just kidding. Like, you put a good bit of money, you even brought over some streamers, and then you just stopped. There's been no changes to the UI. I constantly hear people like Dr. Disrespect and all these other people before they left, like, YouTube and stuff, talk about how cool it was going to see all these changes come to YouTube, and they never came. This is what's annoyed a lot of bigger people like that. And that's why ultimately he's like, yeah, sure, fuck it, Rumble wants to pay me to go over there? Yeah, cool. Rumble's UI looks amazing, it's clean, and it's really easy to vibe with your chat, and you can do things like polls, chat widgets, all kinds of stuff like that. Now, I would like to see more alert stuff like that go over there, like stream elements, maybe even stream, what's the other one? See how I was going to slobs, there we go. So, it's like, I would just like to see a lot more of that stuff kind of come over to Rumble. That would be really cool, because I think that would benefit the platform greatly. It's insane to see, the day and night difference that has happened with a lot of that's going on with Twitch, and then how these other two platforms have really progressed so much more, with even gaining with some politics, but gaming as well too. So if you're a gamer, please do not think that Rumble is just politics and you can't go over there and watch streamers like myself play video games, or other people play games, or just look up content for like guides and other stuff like that. There is that stuff over on Rumble, and it's becoming more prevalent over there too. I mean, obviously we already know Kick, hey, we got a lot of that gaming coming on over here on Kick, so we good on that one, right? And speaking of gaming, now, here's where I'm going to go back into all this stuff real quick. I want to bring back this guy in with the M2 here. So the reason why I do bring this up and want to use this guy a lot more, and why I end up using it for my actual like games, is because of one reason only. This guy has only one NAND chip in it. With that being said, it's not as fast with writing and reading as, let's say, the M1 was, because it has two NAND chips in it. This only having the one NAND chip, it does make it a little bit slower. This reads and writes about as fast as the M1 does, so that's why I actually use this guy for the games, and they literally load, boom, like that. Literally, Resident Evil 3, even on the SSD, external SSD, literally just loads like that, no issues, no problem. I'm literally in the game just as fast as it was when I had it installed on the actual device. So, I mean, just hands down, it's been mind-blowing to see how well that this thing has actually worked with all that. Now, I will say, with that also having just the one NAND chip in here, you would think that it would maybe draw less power. But now, Apple has said, though, that this one less NAND chip, even though, again, this is where, like, it's kind of hard to take some of these, like, benchmark things seriously, is because even Apple themselves has said, like, hey, you know, yeah, we know that it says that on, like, the benchmarks for the read and write time, but real-world experience, you're not going to notice a difference between the M1 and M2, and to be honest, I don't. When it comes to that actual read-write time, I really don't. And in actuality, the M2 chip just makes it that much faster that whenever I'm going to, like, let's say, load up anything off my dock right here, I literally click it, it's loaded up. It's like, bam, you know, bing, bang, boom, it's done. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to sit there and dawdle for a few seconds. Where, like, on the M1, I mean, granted, it was like a half a millisecond, really, between the launching of an app. But really, it does feel like once you start getting to the swappable memory, though, that it starts to really lag. And even though the M1, you know, to all my M4 chips are all just super powerful chips, each one does have its little, like, you know, cons and, you know, its pros, right? So with the M1 being the very first one, it doesn't handle this stress load. I feel like even with the 16 gigs of RAM, if you put too much on the M1, unless it's on in the MacBook Pro and you have the M1 Pro chip, it's not handling that massive load to it as well as those chips would handle it. Whereas the M2, like I said, having a bunch of apps running on this guy, it's been just absolutely mind-blowing how good it is, right? Like, I've been, like, sitting here looking at my script that I've written for a year for that we've been talking through, and honestly, it's so nice to see that I've, like, and literally, you know, not have any issues with my swappable memory, but also just not have any, like, heating, any like that, you know, problems, stuff like that. Like, looking right now, no swap memory at all, and everything is running just super fine. I just pulled up Activity Monitor, you know what I mean? And to go back to real quick how cool this is. So this is nice and cold right now. Now, if I'm gaming on it, it gets warm, not hot. So the MaxTech thermal pad hack, I've thought about still doing it, but then I've also been like, I don't know if I really need to. Like, unless maybe Cyberpunk, when I put it on here, somehow makes this thing super, super hot, I just don't think I need to, man. Like, literally, the M2 has shown me what Apple really has got in store for all of us when it comes to their Apple Silicon. Like, they aren't playing around, all right? Again, gaming on a Mac. If you think gaming on Macs is not a thing anymore, dude, you really need to go pick up, like, a Mac Mini. It's only like $600. If you have a student in your family, ask them if you can use their discount. It's not only $500. Like, it literally comes up to like $534 or $29 versus $634 if you're doing it the other way, right? Either way, that's not that bad, right? You get a 10 gigabyte or 10 gigs of VRAM, plus you're getting a 10-core CPU with that, because it's 10-core CPU, 10-core GPU, plus 16 gigs of RAM. Yes, you're only getting 256 gigs of storage, so that's okay. Drop another $100 on a Satoshi hub, slap that some bitch underneath there with, you know, maybe like 50, 60 bucks on another, you know, let's say a Western Digital like 1 terabyte hard drive, you're good to go. It supports up to 4 terabytes. So now you have even more storage on your device, right? So you can literally not tell me that that is not going to be the best bang for your buck. And then, hear me out, $1,600 desktop that I just sold to a good friend of mine who, knock on wood, he's enjoying it. He's loving it. Great. I'm absolutely happy about that. However, I'm getting the same power out of this guy. Take that in for a second, okay? I want you guys to really take that in. This M2 delivers on the same power notes that my absolute beast of a desktop was. The only difference is I don't have to worry about overheating. I don't have to worry about a fan. I just literally keep it nice and clean, and then there's no issues, right? Gaming-wise, making sure that I have everything around it nice and cool, it doesn't get that hot. I literally, like when I'm at home, I have a cooling pad that I set it on top of. The laptop never gets above lukewarm when I'm playing on that thing, all right? I'm honestly just blown away. I mean, if you guys cannot tell, I have been blown away with how good the M2 MacBook Air 16 gigs, 256 gig storage has actually handled everything that I've thrown at it. I haven't found an area where I've had bottlenecking. I haven't had a moment where it froze on me. I haven't had any issues whatsoever. And to say that about something that I feel like a lot of people kind of like shit on this one, like out of all the models, right? Everybody fucking adored the M1 because it's the greatest, dude. It's the first Apple Silicon, but it was the last wedge design. But then everybody like skipped the M2 and was like, oh, the M3 is amazing, the M4 is amazing. It's like, hey, what about the M2 though? They're like, yeah, it was alright, but it overheated a bunch. And I'm instantly like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? Like, again, maybe it's because this is a couple years later. Now, mind you, we are talking about this unit having all the updates and everything it's had done years later. Does that mean that maybe the M2 got better along the road? I guess so, because all these supposed, it overheats, it gets super hot. Oh, I can't have it on my lap, blah, 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 blah. Bullshit, because I literally use this thing all the fucking time. Never have any burns on my arms. I never have any heat issues on my lap. None of that. So I have no clue what people are talking about when they want to talk down about the M2. I honestly am like, dude, the M2 has been like even more of a great accessory of an item than the M1 was for me, just because it has the 16 gigs of RAM. So the extra RAM has really benefited me in a great deal, because it just honestly has made a lot of tasks that much easier to do and handle. Like I can't speak enough about how good my experience and is how fun it has been on this actual laptop. And even the slight improvement over making like the function keys a little bit bigger, because it's a little bit easier to type on, hitting those function keys and stuff. There's something about typing on this keyboard versus the M1 that I find even more enjoyable. That like there's at times that I literally just want to use the keyboard because I enjoy typing on it so much that I'm just gonna open up notes and just sit there and just fuck around just typing like that. Just type up some random thing. Why? Because it's that much fun to keep typing. I don't like not typing on it. It's weird. Like like when I go to use my external keyboard, I don't like using another keyboard because I'm like, no, dude, if it's not Mac, it's not as good, dude. Like, just saying. I have become an Apple shill, an Apple fanboy overnight. You could say that. I won't discredit that in any way, because legitimately, Apple, you've won me over, right? I've been a lifetime Windows user. I have used PCs my entire fucking life. And literally, one day of using a Mac made me switch instantly that I was like, yeah, I'm selling that desktop. Literally, now we are a week later after having sold the desktop, actually 2 weeks later now, and I'm not like, oh man, I regret selling my desktop. I have not fucking had a single one of those moments. Let that sink in too, okay? You would think that by now, somebody like myself as a gamer, you would be regretful of selling that. The only thing I'm kind of regretful on is because even with crossover, it's had some issues, but I mean, come on. I'm sure down the road, even possibly like when Hogwarts 2 comes out, it'll be fixed. But Hogwarts Legacy is the only game that I've seen when people use crossover with it. It's had some issues. Maybe Parallels might make it work better. I don't know. But like, legitimately, that's the only game that I'm just kind of like, hey, can we maybe get a Mac port of that? That would be awesome. Cool, please, right? But at the same time, though, like, the fact is also I have that version of it on, the Epic Game Store. So them having the lawsuit they had with Epic, I don't know if that's going to be something I'd see anytime soon. But would I pay for a direct new port of Hogwarts Legacy and just replay the whole game all over again on the Mac? Yeah, totally would. It's a fun fucking game, dude. Like, that's what I'm doing with Cyberpunk. And as always, when everybody asks me, Cyberpunk is always on this display here on our TV here, because it's got like the coolest look to it, and literally every customer that comes in is just enamored by the Night City look. They're always like, yo, what is that? And it's like, oh yeah, that's Night City in Cyberpunk. And they're like, whoa, that's so cool. It's like, yeah, I know, because that's how cool Cyberpunk is, right? So I just, yeah, I'm excited to see that drop on the Mac, and I can't wait to see that on the Mac Mini. And I think on the Mac Mini, I get a couple extra gigs of VRAM, right? All right, so that means I can push the 1080p settings that much higher, and we could probably even get like a lot greater of a fidelity at that 1080p marker, that I might be able to mess with the ray tracing just a little bit, right? Just a little bit with the Mac Mini, with the M4. Now with the M2, I'm not going to put ray tracing on at all. We're not doing any of that stuff. But I want to try to put it at like 900p to see how it goes. Like 1600 or 1400 by 900p at the very most. We do 1080p. But I honestly think that it'll still handle Cyberpunk just fine. I honestly believe that because it's the same damn thing that I just had in my desktop. The only difference really is probably the fucking CPU. I do believe my Ryzen 7 CPU was just a little bit bigger of like amount of threads and cores than this guy, but that's not saying much. And even with the Mac Mini, it still would be, I think, less cores than the actual one that I had in the desktop. I'll actually have to get back to you guys. I might put an editor's note in this later on, like maybe down in the comment section. Once I figure out from my buddy how many cores does it say the CPU has on that one. So if it's only 8-core CPU, well, guess what? 8-core CPU. So I'm gonna say if it's saying the same thing, you know what I mean? If it ends up being like a higher, like a 12-core CPU, then the Mac Mini would be just 2 cores less than that, which that's not saying much, right? Which honestly though, with the 16 gigs of RAM, the way everything works with the Apple Silicon, it's a whole lot different than when you're gaming or playing anything or doing anything on a Windows PC. This is why, chat, I don't believe in these bullshit benchmarks. So here's what I'm going to tell you right now: real world experiences, unplugged like it is right now, right? Playing games, right? Like since I've already really tested this with Resident Evil 3, I was able to get, and I shit you guys not, 6 hours of gameplay before it said low battery, charge up. And it was at, I think, 20 or 30% roughly around there when it gave me that warning. 6 hours. Think about that. Now, mind you, at that point, what I did do is I was giving it a very favorable test. I had brightness probably about 50%, like I have it right now. I had no keyboard lights going on because it was daytime like it is right now, bright as hell. And then I legitimately was using the trackpad. I didn't even have an external mouse powering. So there was no extra power going out. It was just me running it like this, right? So I literally was just using the trackpad, which for those wondering, yes, you can use the trackpad while playing any game. I'm using the WASD keys at the same time to shoot a gun or swing a sword, whatever the case is, right? I've done this with quite a few games when I haven't had my mouse to help me test out whether or not the game works. So it works fine. You can do it absolutely fine. There's no lag, no issues. I legitimately was just tap, boom, tap, just doing my little gunshots with like the machine gun when I'm Carlos. When it's the pistol. The only time I really had an issue with was with the pistol, trying to line up shots a little bit better. The shotgun, it just felt like bam, instant hits, things like that. I had no real issues really. I mean, granted, I was like, when I was testing that, I did play on assisted because I'm literally using a fucking trackpad. Like, give me a break here. Let me at least, have a handicap on of some sort because I'm using a trackpad while testing this out. But it worked. And for 6 hours, I was playing the game. I damn near beat the game, but the only reason I was like literally 6 hours of it was because I was doing it while I was here and I had customers in between all that. And so literally, I would have to leave, walk and go deal with my customer, come back. Game is still fine, nothing's running, nothing overheated or anything like that. When I would feel the bottom down here, it would be literally like, it would be warm. It would not be hot. I mean, I bet you could maybe say it was hot, but it wasn't like the point where I feel like when I say hot, it's gotta be to the point where it's like, ooh, you don't wanna put your hand on it, right? This was so minutely hot or warm that it was like, oh, yeah, it's warm, okay, yeah. I could put my hand on top of it. There was a spot right here on the keyboard, that's it. That would have been the only spot that literally when I put my hand on it, yeah, it was like, ooh, that's a little toasty. Okay. Other than that, no, the spot was hot. So tell me, how is that not an amazing feat, right? And again, I look at that being the better setup, right, for the testing too. Now, for the settings and stuff like that, what I'll do is, what I'll hopefully have sitting above me at this point will be a little picture you'll see of some of the graphics, with the settings that I have for Resident Evil 3, which will be usually 1080p, maxed out on all the settings except for motion blur being turned off. That's the only setting I turn off. Now, sometimes I'll increase the resolution, but then I'll turn down the frame rates to 60 instead of 120. But what I've been running is 1080p, 120 frames, and again, 6 hours of gameplay on the M2. Mind blown about that, right? Now, when it came to just doing Gmail, watching YouTube, and doing some other work like that, like some script writing, I was able to get upwards of almost 10 to almost 11 hours out of my MacBook before it hit 20%. I was impressed with that one, all right? And again, no lights on the keyboard, 50% battery. Volume was at maybe like 40%, maybe 30 or 40%, because honestly, these guys get loud. These speakers up here, they do actually get pretty, decently loud. And I don't know, Lee, I know from F-Stoppers, doesn't like the clarity of these. Again, I'm not like a super audiophile, as much as I like to think I am, but I'm really not apparently, because that showed me I wasn't, because I was like, oh, I like the sound of those, those sound good. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, these sound horrible. And I'm like, sound fine to me. So I'm just saying, they sound good to me. I enjoyed them. I think that they sounded just fine. And then on top of that, not only is the speakers just really good on this guy, that I was able to actually get, like I said, like around 10 to 11 almost hours out of this bad boy. But the big thing I gotta say too with that was the entire time I was working, I would constantly be like actually thinking like, all right, man, that warning has got to be coming up soon here at like the 6 hour mark, right? I was probably around like 63, maybe I'd say maybe 58% around that point. And I don't know, there's just sometimes when I just feel like this machine just like stops sucking the power up as hard, and then just finds a good like plateau moment where it just steadies it out and everything like that, because it just, I don't know, I feel like I shouldn't have gotten that long out of just daily use without keyboard lights and everything else. But I mean, dude, it worked. It was, it's amazing. I mean, right now, I've had this unplugged while doing this video, and for 30 minutes while talking, I am still at 100%. So, let that sink in. That's actually pretty impressive to me. So I gotta say, and also too, like, one of the biggest things was that like when it comes to memory swap, I also felt like my data storage real quick, was being sucked up a bunch. Like it felt like it was using a bunch of that swappable memory, or not using it, but putting that as macOS system data, because it was caching that memory. So like, hey, we might need to use all this memory later on. So if I didn't restart the MacBook every 3 days, I was having issues. Getting back to what I was saying here real quick, I had a customer come in, so I had to pause the video real quick and deal with all that. Well, it's semi-customer. She was a little rude there about something. I'll talk about that on my stream. We'll get into that one. But having to restart the PC, or not PC, sorry, but the MacBook every 3 days or so on my M1, because I would have, like I said, it would feel like like almost like a memory leak. It would just feel like there was just not enough space. And as soon as I would do that restart, my macOS data storage would go down to maybe like 10 gigs, and then there would be no more swappable memory issues or anything like that. It would work just fine for another 3 days, and then it would feel like it would just build up and I'd have to restart it. The M2, like I said, it has not done that. I even have done a couple of restarts just to see if it helps, boost it. This is actually restarted so damn fast. I was not prepared for that. I literally was prepared. For whatever reason, I always forget how fast this thing loads, or all the MacBooks, is that I literally opened it up and I was thinking, oh, it's going to take a few seconds to, start it up from start. I got time to go do something real quick. So I literally went out to the kitchen to go grab a drink, came back, and it was already there. And the funny thing was, too, is the girl was like, yeah, as soon as you got up and walked away, it was already there. And I was like, shit. I was like, damn, I thought I had time. I was like, oh, shit, okay, that's awesome. It runs fast, okay. So I'd say you got, like, when it comes to startup time, I'd say about a minute 15 at the most is how long it took me to start it up, literally from just being completely turned off to turning it back on. A minute and 15 seconds gets you right to that login screen. Now, obviously, if you have an Apple Watch, which I don't, I wish I did, just for the simple fact that if you did, it automatically signs you in. As long as you have your Apple Watch on and you have the setting turned on, as soon as you pop open the screen, it's already logged you in. You're at the desktop. Now, if you don't, oh well, you gotta type in a password. That's not a big deal. I don't know why I've seen people get kind of bent out of shape out of that. Oh, it's because things people get bent out of shape about. Why the hell are so many of you upset about the damn notch? The notch does nothing wrong, right? Like, I literally hardly ever realize that the notch is there. I also have a fun time just messing around with the fact that, if I need to move my mouse cursor somewhere and I'm watching something, I put it behind the camera because, oh, hey, guess what? Can't see the damn mouse cursor, so it's kind of handy to have. And it blends in with the black bars, usually on YouTube and everything else like that. So I don't get why people get so bent out of shape over the stupid notch, dude. It's not that big of a deal. Like, literally, even on my main desktop right here, oh, it looks like I actually have my, well, let me actually go to my display here, because it's actually doing it a little bit differently. So, okay, now, it's funny too because all of these, the way I have it set up, like the notch is on the screen, but because the way it looks, I just can't notice it. Like, that's what's funny about this, is that I don't notice the notch. You know what I mean, chat? Like, that's the thing I think is kind of baffling to me about, I think, most people with these, with their MacBook, is that you hear so many people be like, oh man, the notch, the notch, the notch. And it's like, why is the notch such a big issue? Like, okay, maybe it's because I have the iPhone 15, 15 Plus, so or 16 Plus, sorry. I have the iPhone 16 Plus, and so I legitimately do not notice the fucking island whatsoever. You know, like, it's actually handy because it puts my music up there, puts everything up in there, so if I'm like doing something else, I can go, oh hey, beep, opens it up, expands it a little bit, I can drag it down, do whatever I need to. I don't know, I find it to be really handy. Because I was just trying to find a way to like make this like obnoxious to myself, and I can't make the notch obnoxious to myself because it just doesn't bother me like that. So it's crazy that I find people that actually get upset about it. It's just, I don't know, it's crazy. You know, like I said, I've had like so many things where like when I'm gaming, I'll have like Apple Music, while maybe like Safari in the background, all that stuff, and I just have not had any issues at all. Like I said, it's crazy. It's crazy to see. You know, but that's where I want to wrap up at least this one here. This has been the 1 week later, guys, of the MacBook M2, 16 gigs, 256 gig storage. Now, again, I will be back with some more. Like I said, the 1 month later, we will also have the Mac Mini come down here soon. But if you've liked this video, you've enjoyed the content we've been doing so far, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, because we got plenty more content planned for you in the future. Plus, I got some Dr. Squatch videos I'm going to be doing. I got some Cyberpunk videos I'm going to be doing, and other ones as well. But like I said, if you want to catch us live today, I will be live over on Rumble and Kick at the same time, as we multi-stream all the time. I will be talking about the whole Hassan drama that's going on and how that is now reflecting back more on Twitch, and where I think maybe Twitch might be heading for a big, big ad apocalypse. And if you don't think that's happening, there is literally YouTubers already covering this right now as I speak, that they're talking about, like, hey man, Mizkif and all these other people are saying, man, my ad revenue is down 50% more than it would be normally around this time of the year, like last year, 2 years, 3 years ago. And now this is weird too, because it's like, it's kind of funny, it's happening here at the vape store. We're having a very similar moment, but this isn't our ad apocalypse. Like, we're not going through that. We're going through FDA bullshit. But, you know, Twitch is going through an actual apocalypse that's worse than what we saw here on YouTube. Rumble here, please pray we never see anything like that happen. Please, Rumble, if you see Hassan come over to this platform, remove him instantly. None of us want to lose ad. Like, that's like, Decoy Voice made the same comment literally on YouTube. Not necessarily to ban him, like, as soon as he comes over to YouTube, but more or less say, hey, don't fucking come over to YouTube and ruin everybody else's ad revenue over on YouTube. Because there are some people that would literally make it so you can't afford to pay any bill. And literally, those that had just started to become an actual full-time content creator, that whole dream, all that stuff, gone. And I get it. There's so many people like, man, who cares? When we talk about full-time content creators, I am not talking about people who live off of your donations or subs. We are talking about people who live off of company money. Like, hey, they get maybe sponsored by Apple, right? Or they're sponsored by, Ubisoft, Blizzard, whatever. And then they're also making the ad revenue. Well, that ad revenue comes in and adds to those like sponsor deals that maybe they don't get paid every month from, but they get paid in chunks, right? Well, ad revenue is every month. So if your ad revenue, let's say you're making, at least finally now, you're making like a couple grand a month, finally, to make it so you can pay your bills and you can do content creation full time, and then you get told that's now going to be cut down to $200, you are going to be pissed. I don't care who you are. You will be pissed. And if you were making $200, now you're making nothing. Because now they're going to be like, sorry, dude, you're just not a big enough content creator for us to even give you ad revenue money. We got to give that to the other people who are making way more money and actually are making money and causing ads to still stay. That's what's going to happen, right? If Hassan comes over with his group of people and they start actually streaming here, bringing more of that content here, it's going to go all downhill, dude. Literally, it's going to go downhill everywhere. Anywhere they touch is going to be toxic. I'm just saying, they are a toxic cesspool. Keep away from Hassan and that group. I'm telling you guys, it's not going to be good. But let me know what you guys think about this video down below in the comments below on either YouTube or Rumble. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Also, let me know what you guys think of all this new style with the content, right? Now that we've been doing things edited through iMovie or Final Cut Pro, whether it be which one, or either one I should say, we've been doing this whole change up, and now instead of just doing like go live and go from like let's say OBS and just kind of do a one take thing and just hope that pray that it's good. Again, I'm scripting videos. I'm actually editing the videos. We're doing so much more to actually make this actual good content for you guys versus the bullshit that I was pushing out before. Because honestly, I myself am very much happier with the content that I'm making now than what I was making even a year ago now. So I just gotta say, I hope you guys have been enjoying it just as much as I have. That's what I hope. That's honestly my biggest hope for you guys. But hey, been your boy Debbie. I'm signing off. I'll see you all in the next one.